The man in the vents. All right, so this happened about 2 years ago when I was living in this old, run-down apartment complex. You know the type, creaky floors, paper-thin walls, and an unsettling vibe you just can't shake. I was a broke college student at the time, so I didn't have many options. Rent was cheap, and I figured I could deal with a little weirdness. Spoiler, I was wrong. It started with small things. Odd noises at night, like faint scratching or something moving inside the walls. I brushed it off as rats or maybe a stray squirrel, but then it got stranger. One night, while I was lying in bed, I heard what sounded like breathing. Not mine. It was slow, raspy, and definitely coming from somewhere above me. I froze. My first thought was, it's gotta be the vents. The air vents ran through the entire building, connecting all the apartments, so it wasn't impossible that sound could travel. Still, it felt too close. Too real. The next day, I asked my neighbors if they'd heard anything weird, but they all looked at me like I was crazy. One lady said, "This place creaks a lot. You'll get used to it." But I couldn't shake the feeling. A week later, I came home late from a study session. My apartment was pitch dark, and as I unlocked the door, I swear I heard a faint shuffling sound inside. I froze for a second, heart pounding, but I told myself I was imagining things. When I turned on the lights, everything looked normal. Still, I couldn't relax, so I double-checked all the locks before heading to bed. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of something falling in the kitchen. I grabbed a heavy textbook, the only weapon I had, and tiptoed out of my room. The kitchen light was flickering, and on the counter was a knife, not where I'd left it. I was about to call the police when I noticed the air vent cover above the stove was slightly ajar. I stared at it for what felt like forever, then climbed up on the counter to take a closer look. Inside the vent, I found a pair of eyes staring back at me. I screamed and nearly fell off the counter. Whoever, or whatever, it was scurried back into the darkness of the vent. I bolted out of the apartment and didn't stop running until I was outside. The cops showed up about an hour later, but they didn't find anything except for some scratch marks inside the vents. They said it was probably an animal, but the look on their faces told me they weren't so sure. I moved out the next day. To this day, I don't know who or what was in those vents, but I can't sleep without checking every corner of the room first.